And now it's time for a couple of things in the news that caught my eye this week. The big story is something you may have heard about. Apple slowing down their iPhones, and it's been long suspected, but they finally admitted to doing it. This after a group on Reddit found that older phones with older batteries were not performing as well as those same phones with newer batteries. And Apple, for its part, said they have enabled this feature, which is what they call this, because certain phones, when their batteries got to a certain age, would shut down unexpectedly, and they were unable to meet some of the peak power demands. So when the batteries got to a certain age, Apple has a feature that just makes the phone run slower overall. But they never notified their customer that this is what the phone was doing. So everyone just assumed their phone was just obsolete, and they probably went to the Apple store to get a new one as opposed to just getting a battery replacement, which might have cost them less money and extended the longevity of their particular device. This is really bad practice and wrong, and I do think there was probably some Apple corporate level decision that said, hey, we'll make more money getting somebody in the store to buy a new phone versus getting them in the store to have their battery swapped out. And this is what Apple has been doing now over the last couple of years. And they even mentioned here that this feature, which is what they're calling this, is being extended to the iPhone 7 now that it is reaching a point where their batteries on those phones might be hitting their limits as well. And there's a great page up actually on Apple's site that talks about how these batteries work and about their lifespan. And basically on the iPhone, they're recommending that you can get about 500 full charge and discharge cycles before the battery begins exhibiting issues that might lead to this slowdown feature that they call it. And ways you can prevent this from happening is to not run your phone down all the time and then fully charge it back up again, because every time you have 100% depletion and 100% charge on the battery, that will count as a charge cycle. And what I usually do is keep my phone plugged in during the day when I'm at my desk. I have now one of those wireless chargers so I can put the phone down on that to kind of keep the phones topped off, so I'm not doing as much full discharge and charge cycles throughout the day. And that will give you more battery life because you're not draining the battery to zero and then recharging again. I'm maybe going through 25% of a cycle per day versus a full cycle per day, which then again extends the life of the battery. But again, what really gets me about this is that Apple is aware of the health of the battery in their phone, and they could easily just tell the consumer that, hey, your battery is nearing its end of life, you should get a new one. And I think when they looked at this from a corporate finance perspective, they realized, hey, if I go to the store and spend $79 for the official battery upgrade on my phone, they're making far less money because they've got a domestic worker here who's got to spend 25 minutes with my phone, taking out the old battery and putting in the new one, versus selling me a box that they can import from China where labor is far less expensive and make a heck of a lot more margin on it. So I think this is clearly a business decision, which was not very consumer friendly. My hope is that Apple decides to notify the customer and give them the choice. Say, hey, your battery's getting old. Why don't you get it replaced? Or you could, of course, get a new phone if you want as well. But I do think a lot of people would opt to just get the battery upgraded because we're in a point now where phones have really hit their maturation point. We've looked at some features of the iPhone 8 and 10 that work just as well on the 6S. Even that new fancy AR feature works on the iPhone 6S from a number of years ago because these phones have really hit a point where we're not seeing a lot of development here in mobile processors that really make a difference for a lot of consumers. And I think Apple was fearful of that and said, hey, you know what? We have an opportunity here to maybe direct customers, silently to get themselves a new phone, which I think, again, is really bad practice. I do expect that Apple is going to get a pretty decent-sized class action lawsuit over this. I think a lot of people who bought new phones because they felt their other phone was too slow might see some restitution in this as well. This will probably cost Apple some money, but Apple has so much money in the bank. This is one of those things where they will beg for forgiveness versus asking you for permission, although I do hope moving forward you are given some insight as to what the health of your battery is so that you as a consumer can make the right decision. Now, you can buy official Apple batteries pretty easily. If you want to do it yourself, I think you could probably do it for maybe $25 or $30. Our sponsor Pulse does it where they can come to your house and actually replace the battery right where you are. So that's a pretty convenient thing, and that costs a little less in the Apple store. So there are some options out there, but Apple should be giving consumers the information about their phone versus just slowing it down without telling anybody.
This channel is brought to you by the Lon.TV supporters, including gold level supporters, the Black Eyed and Blues Music Hour podcast, Chris Allegretta, and Kalyan Kumar. If you want to help the channel, you can by contributing as little as $1 a month. Head over to Lon.TV/support to learn more. And don't forget to subscribe. Visit Lon.TV/s.